I know the coffee break has a magic atmosphere that is better than che possiamo registrare. Sono sicura che I would remember that the streaming is working. I don't know. Manca Days, sono sicura che facesse lo stream. That's the live. I will try to shorten. Sta cercando.
Silvia, lei si fa un attimo che c'è un problema tecnico.
Ah, ok, però solo sapere se partiva, poi. Forse però ma io non voglio far passare. Non fare perché sta
risolvendo un problema tecnico in un'altra stanza, poi arriva.
Grazie. Secondo me se faccio questo qua devo solo schiacciare play. Ecco, meglio perché ecco, prima di far pasticcio ho voluto evitare.
Assolutamente non bisogna schiacciare nulla se non c'è in streaming.
Ah, ok, posso andare, quindi posso iniziare. Ok. Perfect.
Perché ho un problema di là dell'altra.
Okay, no, I just wanted to know if everything was working. So thank you very much. Now I will have my quick talk, I think so, on energy storage and in particular batteries. So everybody knows that if we are using renewable energies, whatever, that are not continuous, we need something, and maybe a battery, and then the question will be why batteries and not other storage system, to store the energy and then to use it when needed, when the source of energy is not there, or where we want to get it. So why batteries and not other energy storage system, or both maybe? This is mainly because battery surpasses other power sources on efficiency mainly, but lacks in longevity and long cycle lives. So these are very good systems in order to recharge the system, so to use it many times. But its energy stored, both in terms of mass and volume, is much lower than the one we got with fossil fuels and so on. But we can use it more times. So the batteries have a big advantage as we can, they are much more efficient if you compare all the liquid fuels and fossil fuels with all fossil fuels with batteries, for example. The efficiency is much higher as we are using most of energy as heat for when we are burning these fuels. And so the conversion efficiency is generally much higher than 90%. And this is not more than 30 for common fuels. But batteries are really big disadvantage because it takes a long time to be recharged. And so the issue is also to get very fast charging for some system. But this is not really the topic of today because we are focusing on system to store energy for building mainly, but also for renewable energy in general. And again, here is a comparison between different storage systems. And as you can see, there's the one winning is the system based on battery or supercapacitor, who can get an efficiency that is much higher than 90%. If you consider all other systems such as hydrogen mainly, so as in fuel cells, something like this, the storage, the total efficiency is much lower. So the energy you need in order to produce hydrogen is much higher than the one you can get using it and produce electricity. Then for sure it depends on how you are producing these hydrogens, or if it comes from renewable energies, the effect is much different, but anyway, this is the total effect. Quickly, I just remember everybody that we can get many different electrochemical systems. The primary cell is just a cell in which you have some reactant that transforms, are reduced or oxidized to get some product, and this reaction is not reversible. So these are the common primary cell. Then we have the secondary cells that are also called batteries, in which you can both discharge the system, so transforming reactants in products, and then the opposite reaction can also occur, so that you can, giving energy, restore the initial conditions. And the third system are the one of fuel cells, in which reactants are outside of the electrochemical system. The reaction occurs inside the electrochemical system and products are going out. So the system continues working until reactants are feeding the cell. Today we will concentrate mainly on secondary batteries. Which are the system that the parameters we need to consider in order to get the sort of ideal batteries? The battery that we want to get in order to get the best storage, the highest efficiency, the longest cycle life as possible. Firstly, high energy density. That is so that we need to get the lightest batteries possible to store the highest amount of energy. So that this is mainly for mobility, for mobile phones, for other applications, so that the success of all mobiles is really related to the lighting of the electrochemical storage system. We need to get very high energy density, also consider the volume, so that in the case of building is not so huge, but in the case of, again, mobile application, portable applications, this is absolutely very important. Even for electric vehicles, we cannot use the vehicle in order to put the battery to get along many kilometers to run. High power density, this is mainly as we want to get all energy quickly, or we want to charge it very quickly. So for fast charging we need to get very good materials with very strong chemical bonds in order to take high currents all together in order to recharge it as soon as possible. Long cycle life, for sure the longest is the cycle life. We do not need to change our batteries too much, and so this reduces for sure the total cost. Also, fast charge, this is related to high power, wide temperature range. If you are using them in ski left, for example, when the temperature is much lower than -20 during winter, you can use it even when you are, for example, in Barcelona, if you consider a RESSEEPE project, or even in Africa or many very hot countries. Safe, this is maybe one of the first one for sure, and recyclable and low cost. Well, let's remember those parameters, is just to say that we can, if we want to play on to get very high energy, high power, we have to play on these parameters that are current, voltage, and capacity. So in order to get the best batteries possible, we can try to increase the voltage. Highest is the difference in voltage, higher is the energy and the power of the cell, or working in the capacity. So the amount of energy that can be stored in materials. So there are several possibilities. I will just show a couple of them. That will be the one that they are the most common one, the acid. But then I will move to lithium-ion, that are now the state-of-art battery system, and I will take only a few minutes for future energy system for future applications. So lead acid is something that everybody well knows, that are systems based on the use of lead dioxide and lead at the negative electron. lead dioxide is reduced to form lead sulfate, while at the other electrode, lead is oxidized to form lead sulfate. So we have the same product of reaction on both electrodes. That is important that this lead sulfate remains on the electrode after discharge, because if precipitates in the cell, we lose material that we can get for the opposite reaction. During charge, we got the opposite direction, so that lead dioxide oxidizes to form again lead dioxide, and lead sulfate on the other plate forms again metallic lead. There are some problems to be overcome. There are also many kind of solutions already on the market, as you know, because this is a very old battery, very mature, very well performance, quite completely recyclable and so on. You see, these are the reactions. So if you consider the voltage on time, you have this reaction that is the overall reaction of the charge, during the charge, occurring around 2 volts. But when all lead sulfate is reduced and oxidized, current continues to be given to the system, and you have new other reactions. The other reactions are simply the electrolysis of sulfuric acid solution that forms, of water in practice, that forms hydrogen and oxygen. These are the big drawback of this battery, so that if you have in the same small volume these two active gases, you can get also very strong reactions, explosive reactions with the formation of water again. So for this reason, in the case of automotive application, you have some valves on the top of the battery that simply opens to make these gases to go out when the pressure, the internal pressure is too high. This is very important in the case of building, for example, because these are very cheap systems, and now also the Italian law permits to store the energy produced in-house. But if you need a big amount of these batteries in order to store this energy. For this reason, it's better really to keep them in a ventilated place and so on, in order not to get a too big concentration of this kind of gases. Well, lead acid are really very well working, mature and so on, but they have a big defect. They are very, very heavy. Due to the presence of lead itself, it is a very heavy material. And this makes the energy density to lower so much, so that you have to move in order to reach the energy densities of fuels. And if you want to move in that direction, you have to move toward other systems. We pass through nickel cadmium, that now is not more produced due to the toxicity of cadmium, to nickel metal hydride, whose difference in voltage is around 1.2 volts, and its energy density is not high enough, but there are still some good rechargeable batteries on the market. And the most of the activity is on lithium ion, lithium polymer, and so on. As you know, lithium metals, or cars that are also here in front of Polytechnico, of IIT and Polytechnico, are working with lithium metal cells. And this is mainly related to the characteristic of lithium. Why lithium? Because of its very low mass. Its mass is lower than 7. And because of the very high electrochemical equivalence, very high voltage. So that, for example, in the case of car, now we can run for 200 kilometers, but we need to do much more. And I will say you just 2 words in order to understand how it is possible, if it is possible. So coming back to chemistry lessons, this is the potential of the electrodes, as you can remember from your studies in chemistry. But I want to focus on this because this, as I told you before, we can play on the difference in voltage. So why lithium ion? Why lithium, for example? If you consider lead-acid batteries, you have the reaction of lead sulfate, the reduction reaction of lead sulfates, and the reduction reaction of lead dioxide here. So this is the difference in voltage, 2 volts, more or less. But if you can compare this is also nickel metal hydride that I told you before, 1.2 volts. But if you compare the cathodic materials mainly used in the case of lithium-ion with lithium or with carbon, that is one of the main used anode materials, and I will say immediately why, the difference in voltage is more or less the double. And this means that you have a much higher energy density compared with the much lower weight of cathodic material. So, how a lithium-ion cell is working? Okay, it's quite simple. You have mainly cathodes are composed by a metal. Cobaltite is the oldest one, some way. Now we are moving to many different materials. Lithium iron phosphate, for example, is the one now on the market. It's composed by a metal whose oxidation state is maybe plus N, lithium, and oxygen. Oxygen is the place where all negative charge is there. So during charge, you have the oxidation of metal, which increases its oxidation state. The negative charge is the same, so one positive charge is left and goes through the electrolyte. So we have the expulsion of a lithium ion from the structure. If you have a metallic lithium cell, lithium ion moves toward the electrolytes, as here, and it's reduced on metallic lithium. So it's quite a very simple system. During discharge, it happens the opposite, for sure, so you have the reduction and the insertion again of lithium in the cathodic structure. There are some problems by using lithium. Okay, it's very simple, low cost. You can also use very high current. This is the reason why car makers are pushing to use again metallic lithium instead of lithium ion cells. But it is highly reactive. You know that if due to its very low reduction potential, it reacts very quickly with water, giving explosive reactions with oxygen, nitrogen, and everything you have in the air. And moreover, during the charge and discharge processes, when lithium reduces on its surface, it doesn't form again a plane surface, but it starts growing, forming this kind of dendrites that can leave the electrodes, for example, forming some dead lithium, or can also cross the cell, short-circuiting the cell. And so this is a big problem, because in this case you can get really a very unsafe system. For this, really safety is a problem, as I told you before. So for this reason, the idea is to change the negative electron with using graphite. Graphite also reduces, for sure, and it can host lithium ions. So in this case, you have no formation of any metal, so lithium is not reducing, it's graphite which reduces, and lithium, it always remains as an ion that moves in the electrolyte from one electrode to the other one, and this mechanism of this lithium that moves from one position to the other is called the rocking chair mechanism, as a rocking chair that moves from one position to the other one. And this makes the system to become much safer, and so this is the success of our system. So we have a very wide possibilities of choosing materials and to tailor the battery depending on our needs. So the cathodic material are those elements with higher potential, and this is the one that are giving the total voltage of the cell. So you can play using several materials. Vanadium oxide is one of them, of those already presented before, but then we have now the use of lithium iron phosphate, whose potential is lower than others, but the chemical bonds are very strong, and this make this material very safe, cheap, environmental friendly, because it only contains iron, no critical raw materials, and so on. And then now the research is moving toward very high voltage systems, so that if you use very high voltage cathode, the energy density increases strongly, but the system becomes quite unsafe. The other way was to get high capacity, if you remember. So we can move also in this direction, increasing the capacity. Graphite has a very low capacity, is 1/10 of the capacity of lithium, metallic lithium, that is here. But in the middle we have many other possibilities to play with, and then also other metals like silicon with other drawbacks. And now I try to give a very quick overview of some of the material that we can use. So one example is lithium iron phosphate. Lithium iron phosphate, as I said, is a very nice and good material. Now is the one mostly used for the application. It has a big drawback, which is all these materials, oxide, phosphates, or salt, in practice, these materials are not electron conductive at all. And this is a big problem, because we need that electrons will rise in the particle, makes them to be reduced or goes out and be oxidized. But if they are not electron conductive, electrons cannot enter the particle. So in this case, the reaction occurs only on the surface. So the most of the active material is not working, and this can be a big problem. So to solve this problem, we can, instead of having big particles, and again this is something that Lewis told before, we can try to produce very small particles, so that the reaction continues to occur on the surface, but the surface in this case corresponds more or less with the whole amount of the material. Again, we need that electrons arrive to the particles from the current collector. The lithium ion cell is formed by putting these material that are powders on a current collector, that is a method that takes electron to arrive to the particles. So what we can do is also to cover, let's imagine that this small particle is this one now. We can put a carbon layer playing with the synthesis, the synthesis of materials, and reducing a carbon producer, forming a carbon layer directly on the particle, so that now conductivity is much higher, and moreover we can also put this particle in a another amount of carbon-related material, so that we are ensuring that electrons can pass from the current collector to all particles distributed. So, for example, lithium iron phosphate can be produced in very small size. It is very easy, quite easy to produce a carbon layer, as you can see here on the surface. And as I told you before, the chemical bonds are so strong that you can use this material also for very high current. In this curve that is reporting the capacity of the material over cycle number, 1C represents the current you can give in order to charge or discharge the cell in 1 hour. So if you have 20C, it means that it charges or discharges in 1/20th of an hour, so around a few minutes. So in order to accept this very strong current, the chemical bonds have to be very strong. And this is one of the intrinsic properties of this material. We are also planning on working on several other materials. This is one material composed by lithium, nickel, manganese oxide. This is a very new and very interesting material, as its working voltage is around 5 volts. This is the discharge curve over cycles. This is a very difficult material. Daniele, who's working strongly on this material, will know which are problems related to the use of very wide difference in voltage. These are mainly due to the electrolyte. I will tell you only a few words on that too. And again, this is an oxide. Again, we need to produce a carbon layer to get a higher electronic conductivity of the material. And the other problem is related to the fact that during charge and discharge, some manganese can be released from the electrode and moves toward the electrolyte and catalyzes some subreaction at the end. The composition of the electrolyte and the composition of the anode. Okay, so let's consider anodic materials. we can use lithium, as I told you before. We can use graphite, and this graphite occurs toward different stage of reduction. We are also using some of the capacity in the first cycle due to the fact that one so-called solid electrolyte forms at the interface between the anode and the electrolyte. But these are very good material, it works very well, everybody knows. But we can also try to move to get a much higher material which much high capacity. For example, silicium. Silicium has a big problem. It's very good to store lithium ion. It can store a very big amount of lithium ion, reducing. But the problem is that it changes volume while it's forming the alloy with lithium. So it means that when you have one small particle, its volume increases so much, many hundreds of times, that the electrode cracks and it breaks. So that for this reason, there are many studies and a big work done in order to get very nano-sized particles, but also nanowire for example, for electronic application, for small batteries, and then they are also covered by carbon and so on in order to maintain this very big volume expansion. And the other idea is to use again anodic material with strong bonds, as for example titanium oxide. Titanium oxide is very cheap, produced for many other applications, so you can get it very easily in the market. So the idea here was, for example, to take commercial titanium oxide and put it in a good electron conductor. For example, reduced graphene oxide can work very well for this scope. The problem, the drawback is that the voltage of titanium oxide is higher. So the difference in voltage between the cathode and the anode reduces, but as its chemical bonds are very strong, again it can be used till very, very high current density. 40 C means again only really 1 minute, a little bit more than 1 minute to charge it completely and discharge it completely. So depending on the application, you can use really very different materials in order to get very high power cells or very high energy cells. One very big problem is related to the electrolyte. The electrolyte is not water at all, for sure, because we have lithium. We cannot use any water inside the cell. This is the reason why we have to produce our cells. Everybody produces cells in dry season, dry boxes, or dry room, or whatever. And so we need to use an organic solvent in which lithium salts are put in to get the lithium ion conductor. Not all salt can fit, as some of them, for example, are explosive, some of them are toxic, so only few of them really can be used. One of the mostly used is lithium hexafluorophosphate. It can work over 80 C. It gives a very high, very fast reaction. But one of the drawbacks is really related to the flammability of organic solvents. So all organic solvents are flammable. There's no other way. So this is another reason why we need to keep all systems in inert atmosphere. So an idea is, this is the effect you see. Most of people know that some of electronic devices cannot be transported by fly, for example, due to these drawbacks. And if you can see here, the picture is not very nice, but after overcharging or using very high, quite high current, we are speaking about 2C, the double of 1 hour, 2 hours to charge it, the cell already blows and can explode too. So a solution is the one of using a polymeric membrane, as already you installed, so that, for example, polyethylene oxide can be one of the solutions. There are several solutions in which lithium moves from one negative species on the surface to another. It's a sort of jump mechanism from one position to the other one. Again, we are not in liquid system, so for sure the conductivity lowers. We already saw for electrochromic and thermochromic system. but on the opposite side we have a safer system. So again, maybe it's always a sort of balancing what we should prefer. So if we are playing and working with a very high power, maybe we have to move to other system. But if we want to get very high power, if you use polymer, the conductivity of the cell lowers, and again, the current cannot be high enough. And so there are many work. This is also nice for researchers that have something on which work. And so, okay, so today, then we go quickly to the end. Today we have more or less this system. Now the system are increasing with increasing the energy density and lowering the weight. This is very good for portable application, but even for all other applications. But really, they are not enough. If we want to get really electric vehicles, if we want really to store a big amount of energy in a small place, we have to jump now to much higher system. And so the idea is to move to a completely new system, and I will just show you a couple of slides on lithium sulfur and lithium air. Lithium sulfur is really much closer to market. There are many people here working on lithium sulfur coming from our group, and also lithium air, that is something that actually is really on research, but as the promises are very huge amount of energy density, maybe something in next year will happen. So why sulfur? Sulfur, the difference in potential, in voltage between lithium and sulfur is lower than 5 volts. I showed you something that is working at much, a very difference in voltage, 5 volts. And now we are trying to go to only 2 volts. But the difference is that sulfur can host 2 electrons, so the double amount of charge. And this makes the energy to increase a lot. The other system that I will show you in a while is lithium air, but in practice the active material is oxygen, and in this case we can use a much higher difference in voltage. So we can use higher voltages or higher amount of electrons. And this is also summarized in these slides. So in which all systems are compared depending on their theoretical energy density, and you immediately see how lithium air can give a really huge amount of energy compared to all other systems. But also lithium sulfur has a very high energy density of 1,600 milliampere hour per gram, compared with around 400 maximum for lithium ion. So we have 5 times more or less the energy density we have with actual lithium ion cells. But lithium air is promising 10,000, 11,000 milliampere hour per gram. So we are speaking about something that is very close to fuels. And so this could change really completely the idea of electrification of vehicles, of storing energy from renewable energies and so on. But actually the values are much lower, as you can see here. But if you consider that gasoline, liquid fuels in general, are losing so much energy as heat, and the efficiency is so low, even the lithium air cell can compete with gasoline. The problem is that actually we have so many chemical problems inside the cell, Carlotta will know, that really we have to do much experimental and research activity to do that. Just 2 words, I will not show you results that we are achieving in this project, but if someone is interested, there are many people here working, so that just only not to bother you. Lithium sulfur is a very interesting system, as it's composed by metallic lithium and sulfur, which is really very cheap, very low cost, highly available, and so on. Again, sulfur is a non-conductive material, so all these drawbacks I already showed you before respect to the electron conductivity are there, so but they can be in some way solved. But the reactions are quite more difficult. So again, there are big and nice activity for researchers, less, it's a little bit less amusing for people who want to sell this kind of pattern. The reaction occurs toward several steps. The first step is that in which sulfur, that is mainly a solid, a sort of polymer composed by circles, opens, and when it opens it becomes soluble. So it goes in solution, it starts to reduce, forming some intermediate salt, all soluble in solution, and then it precipitates at the end as lithium sulfide. So the reaction occurs towards several steps, and some of these steps are inside the electrode, some of the other steps are in the liquid. And if these polysulfides moves and arrive to the anode, directly react there. So we have many activity done in order to separate the two compartments of the cell, or to isolate lithium with a membrane so that lithium sulfide cannot react directly on the electrode, or to make the reaction all to occur inside a porous cathode. So high activity, very nice work can be done. In the case of air, we are mainly using oxygen. But the species who reacts is the oxygen that goes in a conductive matrix as a sort of is a system that somehow is similar to a half of a fuel cell. So where you have the oxidation reaction, the oxygen reduction reaction. And oxygen goes in this matrix. There it takes electrons, it forms some intermediate, so a superoxide for instance. This superoxide then dismutates and forms lithium peroxide, that is the product of the reaction, and leaves oxygen away. You know, you have very, very reactive species here. You have some radicals, you have superoxides, you have peroxides, and everybody knows about the reactivity of such superoxides, so that can decompose the electrons, it can decompose the electrolyte mainly, and so on. So they have those so-called monsters that are all these subproducts that we want not to get inside the cell. So this is the reason why this system is so far from the industrialization, but really the energy density that we can get is so high that I think that this is a good system on which to continue working, at least at the basic research level, in order to be ready for future when Asiatic countries will arrive with their new cells, and we already are ready to work also in Europe with such system. Okay, so I will skip this system. I will just say one word on fuel cells whose efficiency is lower than batteries, but they can be very interesting for application in buildings, as when we have not to move them. For electric vehicles, for example, I think that this is not a very good system because you have to move with hydrogen, very reactive gas, or produce hydrogen on site and so on. Which is the idea? The idea is that you can perform the electrolysis of water in order to produce hydrogen and oxygen. So this is something that needs energy. So you know that you can transform water in its component, in its element. So you need energy for that. So if I do the opposite, I take the two components, or better, hydrogen and oxygen, and I put them together to form water again, the system has to give me back the energy I used before. It's very nice, the overall idea, but in practice it is very difficult, because this is a drawing done by McGraw in the half of the 19th century, where he started to do this reaction, but the current he got was too low. Too low, as the rate of the reaction is very low. So how we can increase the rate of one reaction? We can increase the temperature. So for example, the so-called soft solid oxide fuel cell are a good system in order to increase the speed and the rate of the reaction. Or we can use more reactants, and so we can feed always the cell with hydrogen and oxygen, or we can use a catalyst. So which are the reaction? Hydrogen arrives in the cell, it is reduced to form hydrogen plus that moves in the electrolyte, which is a solid electrolyte, and reach the other electrode where oxygen is reduced, as in the case of lithium ion cell, lithium air cell, but here it produces simply water. So the only product of the reaction is water in a PEM fuel cell. But this reaction is very slow, So in order to increase the concentration, we use porous membranes so that the hydrogen can pass through the membrane and can stay in the electrode until it's completely reduced. Nevertheless, it passes only on the surface and it cannot be reduced. And we can use a catalyst in order to reduce the activation energy. So this is again one difficult system, but something that we can use, for example, for big plants, big amount of energy. Okay, so this is a big overview on electrochemical system, mainly based on lithium ion, because this is the one mainly focused on the state of art. So now I want to thank you all for your attention. Our people working in our research group, most of them are here, and so thank you for your attention.